out there in the world doing what you do best. And what's been coming up for you? I have a question for you today, and I never quite know what I'm going to talk about when I get on these Facebook lives, so I just ask for whatever's pulling me and whatever's been showing up in my life and my clients' lives to just come here and serve you and give you some little seeds to plant and just support you in wherever you are in your life right now. And my question to you is really, where are you actually killing your life, killing your business, killing your joy, and letting adrenaline run your business, trying to breathe life into your business, and actually at the same time you're actually depleting yourself and you're exhausted and you're tired and you just have no energy? I started my day today off with my namesake in the UK. I had a beautiful, very expansive mastermind brainstorming session with Sarah Jane. So Sarah Jane, if you're watching this, you know who you are, and I know that conversation and where it went, and the clarity that you got out of that was very expansive, not just to you, but to me as well. And then I was lucky enough to go and play with some horses and some beautiful dogs and an incredible woman who is a fantastic creator, and she's got a beautiful line of clothing, and she was finishing up with her accountant when I got there, and it's just the most beautiful space that she's created. Beautiful home, beautiful barn, beautiful horses, and everything just seemed really peaceful, and yet she was so unsettled in her energy. And so we decided to go and get some horse medicine, not to show up and do or get busy or distracted in the energy of it, but just to go and literally receive whatever the horses had to give to her, to me, to the space of what she wanted to create. And it was just magic, because it always is with horses, to sit in that, to stand in that space and watch her horses push her around and bite her and really crowd her space, and look at that as, where is she allowing other people's point of views, other people's opinions, other people's of how she should do business, bully her, crowd her space, and to notice, wow, that she was totally all over the place, trying to be all things to everyone. And in her languaging, how she was explaining how she had to rescued all these horses that had a terrible life, and there was a lot of empathy there that was beautiful, but it wasn't very empowering to her. And to notice that, after an hour of processing, of just asking questions, of just standing in the space and allowing the horses to settle her, and how their energy changed the minute that she let down her guard, she pushed her barriers down, and she was able to just show up in that space of wondering what it was going to take for her to get her joy back in her business, because her life looks beautiful. She has a great life. But the part of running on adrenaline all the time wasn't giving her very much space to actually enjoy the process of how she'd got to where she was, and also how she could start to receive more of that joy back and more of that creative process that she'd lost. And I can totally relate to that, where I have started businesses in the past, and it's always been a creative process of joy and creation and being able to make something out of nothing. And how I myself had lost that when I was in the furniture business and ended up with 35 people working for me. Oh, thanks for the hearts, and Jana, nice to see you here. And I was looking at bank balances all the time, and I didn't like looking at bank balances. I completely had cut off the reason why I had got into that business in the first place, and how I see so many entrepreneurs, so many people that have started amazing businesses, and that they've lost their joy along the way, and they end up being in the space of stressing about money, stressing about, how am I going to create the money? How am I actually going to get to the next level? And making their clients responsible for it. Please don't make your clients responsible for maintaining your lifestyle, because when you do that, and I think most entrepreneurs get very frustrated with this, that they don't even realize they're doing it, right? Because it's this need to feed. And if you think about the 6 main things that we need as mammals, as human beings. It's certainty, it's variety, significance, love and connection is the fourth one. The fifth one is growth, and the sixth one is contribution. So I'd love to ask you right now, hi Victor, one of the most amazing jewelry makers in Johannesburg. If you're looking for beautiful jewelry, go and visit Victor and let him create something that really is an energetic resonance to who you are and part of your personality. But yeah, so my question is, ask yourself, out of those 6 basic essential needs, how many of you can relate to just living in the top 2? You want the certainty, you want the security, and at the same time you're looking for variety, because we get bored. It's part of our human nature that we start something with passion, with creative juice, and then when we don't start to see the results, we lose interest and we start to run away, right? We start to look for the next best thing, which becomes a little bit of an addiction. It's that adrenaline rush, because actually, if you look at what are you afraid of, and I asked both these clients this morning and had a conversation with a guy later on that was really around the same thing. Something's off. Why can I not feel happy and satisfied and really blissed out about just what I have created as my life, as the medicine of who I am being? And stress around money is one of the biggest killers of joy, right? If you can't actually see where your money's coming from, how can you actually create that connection and the variety? That's the old paradigm of thinking you have to choose one thing and one thing only and stick with it because you've made your choice and this is your lot in life and that's how it has to show up. And what we unraveled in the session today, in the paddock with the horses, was this place of constantly distracting, this place of constantly running and putting out fires, that adrenaline rush that makes us feel our own aliveness and it's actually burning us out in the process of, looking at, this isn't a problem that's unique to you. This is part of where we have to start to get really truthful with ourselves. And I see so many people in marketing, in business strategies, in the way that they're showing up as, the expert on how to get your business out there or sell your business, are missing. They're band-aiding. The strategies are not unique to where you are and what you need. And you can't let anybody, no one else can do that for you. You have to be truthful with yourself. And I know, I do this myself. I say mean things to myself and I start asking for, what is it that I'm missing here? Why am I not there anymore? We're always looking to get there rather than actually seeing where we are and what else is available to expand us out. And I'm not talking about making yourself bigger here. I'm talking about, what are the simple things? We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You either do it all, go big or go home, or you do what matters because you know what you stand for and you know that what you're creating is changing people's lives, whether that's a beautiful piece of jewelry that lights somebody up, or whether that is allowing people to be their own medicine, which is what I stand for, what matters to me. And it's about taking small risks with courage. You can't get from here to there without practicing it. That's the mastery of it. It's like, don't stretch yourself out. And you probably notice that most of the time we're in the middle, we're in the circle, in our zone of genius, but we're not in our zone of excellence. We're not in our diamond brilliance because what we want is always outside of our comfort zone. It's on the outside of that. And we want the quick fix. We want the magic pill that says, you know what, just do this way and everything will be fine. And yet the adrenaline is running the business all the time. We're pumping it out and we're not actually able to create the certainty or the safety for ourselves because we don't know how to get deep into the uncomfortable part outside of our comfort zone to actually look at what is it that I'm really afraid of. And this is where, it's just like I see other people copying models and they keep getting stuck because they're not getting curious about what can I learn here from my business, from my peers, from my mentors? What can I learn here? And look at what's available to you in the moment that doesn't require you pumping up your adrenaline and running on empty. And, you know, it's like flogging a dead horse, honestly. And this has to stop if we're going to change anything in our lives, is to look to your originality, to look to your true nature and access that part that you're actually afraid of. You know, are you afraid of living? Because 99% of people are actually afraid of living because they're afraid they're going to make mistakes. And so they copy what other people are doing as if that's a certainty that if they just copy and duplicate a system that they won't make mistakes. And that's the whole point of having a human experience, of creating as only you can. And that's my belief, is that when you look at who you are and you look at where do I want to go, and you stop running on that adrenaline of I'm not feeling safe and there's no certainty in my life. And when there is, then I have to create some kind of trauma or drama to get the adrenaline up again because I am bored, right? I'm not talking about complacency, but we have to do things consistently every single day. And in order to not get bored and start creating trauma, drama, and emergency, is just choose that I can have variety. I can have infinite possibilities of how I create, but I'm not defined by one thing of how money can come to me. Is that making sense? Little joys with creative spirit. Yeah, absolutely. You know, stretch outside your comfort zone and look at, you know, what is that percentage that you're willing to stretch that's realistic, that doesn't pull you back into saying, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get this right, let me just follow somebody else's system. And look at, where am I afraid of messing up? Where am I afraid of making mistakes? Who told you that you're a mistake, that you can't do this? You know, come home to yourself and stop following other people, because their system, their 12 steps is not going to work for you, because it's not your 12 steps, it's somebody else's dream. It's not your dream. And in order to do that, I believe you have to get really honest. We have to go deep into these conversations. And we have to look at that there's no shame. There's no shame in stretching slowly, slowing everything down. And looking at, just like my client this morning, who said, oh my gosh, you know, I never take time off for me. I never get to relax. I'm always running all over the place to keep all these balls in the air and keep the wheels turning and keep the hay and the feed going for the horses, and, you know, keep things running. And that's pretty exhausting because there's no joy in it. Rather than looking at how can I receive more insight, more awareness, more of what I want by actually just going to chill with my horses. You know, I don't have to ride them as another distraction. I don't have to do anything. I can just chill with the horses. And I think I'm probably going to start my horse chair therapy mornings. If people are if you're interested in that and you live in Johannesburg and you'd like to do some of this beautiful medicine with horses, let me know. And you can come sit on a chair and let horses show you the parts of you that you're deeply afraid of. Because it's just the most expansive place. And when you settle and you come out of your head and you allow yourself to just receive that beautiful horsepower, that beautiful heart energy, then things that are under your nose that you couldn't even see before reveal themselves to you, because you're actually willing to receive them. You're not blocking it. You're not, you know, you're not putting yourself into the stuckness of looking at, I can't quite get what I want. I know something's off, but I don't know how to change it. What story do you want to change? And how can you change it? You know, you don't have to get stuck on perfect. I think that's the message today, is allow yourself to stumble, allow yourself to trip, allow yourself to dare, and dare greatly in small doses consistently every single day. That's how you stretch outside of your comfort zone in a way that you actually create big change. And create a plan that you trust. You know, look for people that are doing things similar to you, and get into mentorship with them. Get into mastermind with them Allow them to actually mirror back, just like the horses do, where you're missing the whole essence of your gold, of what you came here to do. You know, it's just like you get it when you get it. And I was so elated when I left that lady today and her horses, to see her lights back on, to see the sparkle back in her eye. And it wasn't a huge change. She's already got the setup and the infrastructure. She just couldn't see that you don't have to reinvent the wheel in order to start to get a cash infusion in consistently, while you're growing the dreams of the lifestyle that you want to create, in whether that's traveling for you or writing a book or just allowing yourself time to do the things that make you happy and fill you up. And you can't do that if you're on an adrenaline pump all the time, just surviving. You know, we're not here to just survive. We're here to thrive. We're here to spread our joy and our creative energy, you know, like a contagion around the world, to people that are looking for that you get to light them up, because you're sparking a part of themselves that's so buried under the routine and the mundane and the certainty that we think we want, that actually isn't certain. There's no safety there. So how can you create safety for yourself in a way that you actually start to get incredibly inspired, rather than hollow and abstract and cynical and tactical, which is the old way of creating business, and start to look at something that's deeply, deeply authentic, that really matters to you. Because that is where you're going to find your joy. That is where your money is going to follow joy, right? Money doesn't like heavy, worry energy, just like animals. You know, they don't want to be around that when we're being heavy. And look to what is your deepest wound. You know, I talk about woundings a lot in my work, because until we're ready to actually go deep and look at what are the traumas that you've come through, what is your story? What do you know that only you know, because only you've had that experience? So if you're wondering who you're here to serve and how to create money in a way that's authentic and aligned with your core values and your integrity, look to your deepest wounds, because when you look there, you're going to find your truest niche. You're going to find your signature. You're going to find the power in the parables of telling that story in a way that's deep and authentic and vulnerable. And that's what people want. You know, connection is currency. And until you get to that part of looking at where am I not being authentic and honest with myself, you can't show up and give that to other people. You just can't. So, you know, where do these sort of deeply authentic and resonant, successful patterns come from? They come from owning them, for a start. And they also come from creating safety and security for yourself as only you can. Right? You have to take risks, and you can't take risks if you don't trust yourself to hold yourself in a space that I create my own safety. That I have everything that I need inside me. It's an inside job. It really is. It's an inside job. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have everything that you need, and you know what doesn't work. So that's a really good place to start looking at, you know, who am I here to impact? And how can I create my financial abundance by just being me? Because when you get that you have to create certainty, that I am certain in this moment. It's your commitment. It's putting your stake in the ground and not faltering. Focus on just one thing, rather than trying to do a million things at once and then wondering why you feel so scattered and so edgy and so uncertain. Focus on one thing. Hi, Jocelyn. And then the variety will come. Then the variety comes. It's called flexibility. It's about looking at what's probably been under your nose and you couldn't see it because you were so distracted by the avoidance of, oh my gosh, what if it could be this easy? What if I could just do this and get out of my own mind? What if I could actually just see that I can fill that space of emptiness from being more spacious, right? Because that's what we're all afraid of. Most of us are afraid to be alone with our own minds. We think we're going to go crazy. I did. You know, the method in my madness was go mad, because when you allow the madness to come in, the unthinkable, the impossible, there's nothing else there other than to lean in and see what the gift is in all of that. And that's really where I want to take people with my work, is to get to the root cause of where you're so traumatized to be alone with your dreams and desires and your mindlessness in that. Because we're integrated, body, mind, spirit, heart. We're a full package, and yet we're walking around thinking we're not enough. There's parts of us missing, or parts of us that we can't access. Absolutely. Because maybe it wasn't safe for you to access those parts then, but it is now. It is now, and you don't have to do it all on your own. So, you know, if you start to go there and look at what is this emptiness that I'm not willing to receive, and most of the time it goes back to that core wounding of, if I'm not essential, if I'm not a vital part of my tribe, of my village, of my herd, if I am useless, if I have no worth, or the world doesn't want me, then I have to make up for that by being really needed and very vital. And there it goes, the rescuers that are listening to this, the saviors, the martyrs. We all have aspects of that in our personality. But you can't rescue your past as a limitation of your future if you're not willing to be present with where you are right now. And that's really key. And that's certainly been a huge stretch for me in you know, filling my practice and having a waiting list and having residual income streams. It didn't happen overnight. I stretched, and I'm still stretching myself into how can I give more back to the things that matter to me. And I can't if I'm not allowing myself to have the day off, the time to just sit and be. And this is where we get addicted, right? We're all addicts. We're all addicts, and we're all traumatized. It's just that kind of abuse you can't always see. And we would rather make the heroin addict wrong for injecting crap into their veins. And I remember speaking to some of my clients who were addicts and did some of the hard tech like heroin. And they'd say to me, it felt like I was being held in my mother's arms. That first hit of heroin, it was just like I was home being nurtured in my mother's arms. And that's where we start to chase the dragon, right? Heroin addicts talk about chasing the dragon, because they're trying to access the part, that fire energy of being held in the fire and being told you're okay. Without certainty, you're okay. I'm not leaving you. And yet we're injecting crap into the earth. We're injecting crap into our own minds and into our own lives. We're poisoning ourselves. We're creating violence against the earth, just as we are to our bodies. But just because we don't have a needle filled with heroin, we're not willing to go there because it's too uncomfortable, and we don't want to be like those addicts, you know, because we don't want to be like them. And yet intrinsically what we all want is the same thing. We want a space of creating safety, and we want to have a certainty and a variety in our lives and have the balance. So we never get to look at what are we making significant that actually isn't. And we never get to look at how do I connect with myself from a place of love and kindness and being present with that. Because we don't believe we're worthy of love and connection. And we don't believe that we can grow, or we believe we can. And that we have to be dependent, otherwise we're weak. And I wouldn't be here having these conversations with you if I hadn't stretched into places where I'm uncomfortable. I'm constantly stretching, and I'm so grateful that I have an incredible mentor. Hey Hillary, she's on the call. So if any of you are looking for that, check out Hillary Schneider. She's amazing. And so aligned with what I want, to fill myself up, to inject myself. We need mentors. We don't have to do it on our own. We can't do it on our own because we can't see the blind spots when we're in it. And just like my client today, it was weird. We were standing out there with the horses and I started talking about an apple tree. And you'd wonder, what does an apple tree have to do with, getting her business to a place where it's making her money? Well, it's like, know that harvest time is harvest time. And when you have apples, know that you're making apples. You're an apple farmer. You're not a nut farmer or an orange farmer. You're in the business of apples. And there's a time for harvest and there's a time that looks really, really still. But if you know how to utilize what you have when you've harvested your apples, that sustains you during the times when it's not time to make apples. And it was so funny too, because a bee landed on her head too when we were talking about that. And our accountant was trying to whack the bee off. And I said, what is the medicine in the bee in that moment of landing on her head when she was talking about not having any sweetness in her life? And how does she get the joy and the sweetness back into her business? So, the signs and symbols are there, but they're very quiet. Consciousness is quiet. Your wise self that knows how to create is much quieter than all the noise in your head, all the madness. And I don't know, it's just like, what if we could stop injecting ourselves with venom that poisons and kills, not just ourselves and our creativity, but how we're treating the earth. What we're poisoning the earth with is how we're treating ourselves. And if we can just stop doing that and start to inject ourselves or infuse ourselves with love and kindness and patience, how much different would the world look from that space of honoring where we're at, and who do you want to be from that space? So would you be willing to tend to your roots when it doesn't look like anything is happening in your life, and know that you're still an apple tree and that you're going to be the best apple tree that you possibly can be? And when it's time, the bees are going to come and help you. And those are your helpers and your support team and your guides and your mentors in your life. Let them come and help you pollinate so that you have a bountiful crop of apples. And then know how to dry them and hydrate some and make apple juice and ferment some, so that it sustains you through that period where you have to go inward and replenish and go down into the roots and get your energy out ready for your next bloom, for your next show of apples and apple blossoms. So that's my musings and my medicine today, is how can you start to take small risks with great courage. And courage really, again, is just really about how can you hold yourself and trust yourself to know that just by taking one step differently or clearing out some of the mind clutter is going to take you closer to a plan that you can trust and grow into. So post your comments and questions if you have any insights or awarenesses or anything else that you'd like to speak to. And just be present with what's here now. Don't get stuck on perfect. I so know that over perfectionist trap of thinking that it has to look a certain way, and how liberating and freeing it is to just embrace the falling and get curious about, what can I learn here in this moment of stumbling? Maybe there's something down there that you need to see. All right, guys, sending you lots of love. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and tell me what you'd like to hear more of. Bye.